Oh, well. Anyway, time to talk about education, and we are talking about remedial schooling. And with us this morning, we have two guests. We have the Benedict Loveridge Yate, who's from Rising Sun Montessori, and we also have Che Bafo from Ideal College. Good morning, gents.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Although we're talking about education, you heard the conversation before. Were you educated?
But I found it quite educative because I think a lot of people have such serious problems out there. They don't have anybody to talk to, nobody to advise them. And I think it's just a timely intervention by TV3, and it was on point.
And I'm sure you had some very pertinent questions answered, didn't you?
Yeah, sure. So
I don't know what Benny means when he says I expose myself. I just ask the questions that the viewers want answers to.
That's right, Sandra. Whatever you want to tell yourself. All right, now we're talking about remedial schooling now, and obviously enrollment rates in Ghana basic schools have improved significantly. I'm not too sure. However, there are still this whole trend of students who don't quite make it and have to retake their exams and go to remedial schooling. So that's why we have these two gentlemen in the studio this morning. Now, where did this whole concept of remedial schooling originate from within Ghana? Benedict, let's start with you.
Right, thank you very much, and let me say good morning to your cherished viewers. I think this whole concept of remedial education traces way back in the early 90s with the extramural academy stuff. You know, that was a time when a lot of people were really anxious and determined to make it into the university. So it started with the Cambridge O-level, A-level and stuff. But I think later on it became a fashion. Let me say it that way, because I think if you want to go deep into learning and you want to define learning as a process of acquiring skills, knowledge, attitude and what have you, then it tells that a lot of things must be taken into consideration for that to be achieved. But most schools, you can see that they stay unconcerned. Let me put it that way. I just want to be very blunt. Most school authorities may know children have certain challenges as far as learning is concerned, but they all look on. Teachers know what challenges there are, but nobody is ready to address and get these things sorted out. So the children are always promoted in mass fashion. So in the end, they go and face the exam and they are not prepared. And what do we expect? They fail. They fail, and then we know that there's always the remedial system to take over. But I don't think that should be the way. There's a process whereby children who need special attention are given such attention so that they are placed at appropriate levels. We don't need to just promote all children in a mass fashion. We need to carefully promote those who deserve to be promoted, so that there wouldn't be the need for this remedial fashion thing.
Okay, but I'd just like to touch on what you said earlier about it being fashionable. I completely agree, because I remember growing up, it was, I don't know if the correct word to use is fashionable, but students kind of looked forward to it, you know. I'm not saying that they planned classes.
I mean,
they planned to fail, but it was there wasn't really anything kind of wrong with it. They actually looked forward to going to these classes and wearing nice clothes and going to show off. Not to necessarily say they planned to fail, but they didn't really see it as a big deal to be going for remedial class. It was actually very fashionable. You know?
Che, I mean, in regards to you yourselves, I mean, what do you reckon about that?
Thank you very much. Good morning to your listeners. It's quite unfortunate when somebody stays in the mainstream and thinks that even if he does not study during remedial time, he will pass. The statistics we have here, I'm coming from a background where we are exposed to people from both the mainstream senior high as well as the remedial section. And you realize that it is very easier passing in the main senior high system than to pass in the remedial.
Absolutely.
We are given a period of 3 years, or better still 4 years. With all this kind of pressure, a well-structured system, you could not make it. And you want to deceive yourself that given a period of less than 1 year, you are going to make it during remedial system. It's quite unfortunate. Unless you get some typically highly academic oriented institution, which definitely you should also be prepared.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you 1 second, because you mentioned something, structures. how can you say we're in a structured situation in regards to Ghana education system when, if we said we started this remedial thing from the 90s, we've had 4 educational structure changes since then. It started from, like you said, OA levels, where you had 5 years from 1 to 5 to do your O levels. Then it went to 3. Then it went to 2.5. Wow. Then it became to 3.5. So could this be part of the reason why people aren't passing? Because one day they're told they're given 2 years to study. Next day they're told they're given 3 years to study. So is it structured that actually is a good structure?
Granted, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is more than the 6 months or the 8 months you are in for the remedial.
Agreed.
So giving you that period, it shows that at least you should be able to do something. If you're not able to excel within that period, there is no way you can excel during the remedial section. What's something? 2007, we had candidates who sat for examination for even integrated science. We had only 48.6% of them that had between D7 and F9, which means they failed. When most of them sat for remedial thinking they can remedy their situation there, we had 86.3% of them failing.
Ouch.
2008, we had 72.90 of them sitting for the mainstream and they failed. They wanted to go for remedial. 2008, we had 85.5% of them failing. What are we talking about here? If students do not sit up and think that it is normal, funny enough, we have some candidates who even believe that the remedial is a direct continuation of the senior high. So they'll tell you that even I'll finish senior high, do remedial before I go to university. It's unfortunate. It's highly unfortunate.
It's become a culture.
Is it part of the thinking of students nowadays that they just think that remedial is part of the school system rather than looking at it as an obstacle, a stepping stone?
You see, Uncle Benedict used the word fashion. Initially, those days, he said remedial is just to remedy somebody in one way. I always put it that the person has suffered some severe academic accident and needs some kind of surgery. So you only went there because 1 or 2 subjects could not go well for you. So it is time to just redefine or to remedy the situation. Now, people now dress to go and exhibit whatever they have during the remedial session. So no wonder they go and fail again. But serious candidates sat for WASI, that is May, June. Things did not go well. One of them, some genuine reasons, they were sick. 1 or 2 things went wrong. And 1 or 2 subjects, they just have to remedy it. But not you package the whole subject, you failed everything, and he's sure he's going to fail. And knows that even if I fail, there is another option.
What about in regards to some of the teaching done during remedial courses? There's been rumors that some of the teaching is not as thorough or as intense as the normal courses, which in a way can be understood. But what's your response to that? Because obviously the students are claiming they're not giving as much vim as they would if they were in the mainstream courses.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, in the mainstream you expect maximum supervision, monitoring of what goes into the teaching and learning, unlike in this remedial system where there's a lot of laxity in the system. Teachers who are the teachers of these remedial schools? They are full-time teachers of the well-established schools who have been engaged to do part-time. So therefore, to them, they are doing business. And anybody doing business will go in not with the absolute welfare of these children.
Right.
And since the students themselves, they go in for fashion, this is the time to display who they are, how free they are, the sort of environment they live in and all that. These teachers, they just watch. The children dictate the pace. A teacher can come in and the children say, "Oh, sir, today we should do this," and things are not well structured in the remedial system, because in the mainstream there is a head of school. We have various authorities in the school to ensure that the right things are done. But the unfortunate thing now is that most of these schools have left things, unguarded, and that is causing this huge situation we find ourselves in.
Okay, so Che, with the remedial system, is there any kind of special tuition or maybe tips that these students get to make studying or writing the exam easier?
Sure. Before that, I'll bet to differ a bit from Uncle Benedict in a way. You see, now we have remedial institution itself, which is being run full-time Not like the normal one where we have people just go to class and other teachers, and they have their teachers on full-time basis. Now, some of these institutions, like the background I'm coming from, when somebody has gone through the 3-year system and has failed and has come back, the way in which the individual was taught, you can never use the same mechanism, because you are teaching the person less than a year. Now, the first principle, for instance, we have is this. We say, you have to identify the person's problem. What accounted for the failure of the person? And can you be able to examine this person, or can you work on this less than a period of 1 year? If you can. We have so many instances where students go to senior high school, do courses which are even beyond their control. You call parents and they give pressure. Let my ward do science. I want him to be a doctor. The whole village is the only doctor we are waiting for. This boy does not have enough mathematics or even integrated science background. And trust me, all the WASI they write every year, we have not less than 75% of the candidates getting between D7 and F9 every single year, and I repeat.
Wow.
Mathematics and science. So if you first have to identify the person's problem, the next thing is you deal with the problem. How do you deal with problem? This is how some of the remedial institutions they work. In dealing with the problem, you realize that most of them have come together. Now they have different background, different level of understanding. One cliche I've ever seen repeat itself in classes, whenever a teacher teaches and asks a question, do you understand? The usual response is yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the yes, sir is always driven by the teacher. Let all of us move on. And we don't find out that people have special. Others wrote examination somewhere in 94. And now they are coming to write remedial.
But is that also because, for instance, they've gone on a 3-year course, they've done 3 years of study, so this 1 year is more or less a revision situation? So at the point where they're agreeing that yes, they may understand, some of them may have, a small bit of understanding, considering they've done 3 years already. And also in regards to the teaching, you're saying that it's slightly different, but like you said, it's 1 year, and it's meant to be a revision of the 3 years they've already done and get through it. So why is it, why is the teaching so different?
I think over there, most of the strategy should be the solving of the past questions. Like he said, identifying some of the topical areas where the student had peculiar challenges, so they see the best ways to go around them in order to get these children prepared to face the exam again. So when should they come across such questions again, they should be able to tackle them. But like I said, still the environment within the remedial setting would always be different from the mainstream. There will only be isolated cases. Like you said, you may have a class, you want to identify the various needs. If you have a class of about 40 people and they have different needs, how are you going to attend to all these needs if you are just a single teacher of a subject? So therefore there will always be challenges, but I think the onus lies largely on the students themselves. Because having gone through the full stream, giving some guide, the remedial system is just to guide you. So you go through some questions, you know that, this topic I'm not too conversant with. Then you approach a teacher, he throws light on it, and then you are better off again.
Okay, Che, do you think that, this system has been informal for a very long time, the remedial system. Do you think that if there was no such thing, students would be more serious and, study more during the 3 or 4 years that they're in the senior high school, when they know that they don't have anything to fall back on? If I fail, that's it. There's nothing for me. Because Benny and Amma were telling me earlier on that with the JHS system, there's
a certain point that if you do fail,
that's it. You can't go and revise it again. Do you think if there was nothing such as this, the students would be more serious?
It's a yes and no. And I would say yes and no in the extent, from the angle that you realize, yes, because one, you realize that you have no option. So definitely it is one time. And if you don't kill it, initially when remedial has officially not started, what happened was that once you fail, you have no choice than to go back to your school. Sometimes start from second year or even the third year and rewrite.
Even the shame of doing that will make
you very good.
That's right.
That's why we have mature students.
You understand? That's exactly what is happening. But aside, I realize that some people also have some peculiar reasons why definitely they failed. And some of those people would definitely need some form of assistance. So if you check some of the causes of failure, Uncle Benny just mentioned something like the use of past questions. Candidates fail to simply understand that the exams I'm writing, I'm never the first person to write. People have written before. And it's very prudent and expedient that I go through these things people have done before.
So it's a strategy, really.
Yeah. It's a nice strategy.
Very strategic.
Let people go through past questions and see the amount of repetitions that always are there. 2, we have the use of marking scheme. People do not understand why I has a nice expression. Credit to be given for clarity of expression and orderly presentation of material.
I've seen that a lot of times.
Yes, which means you don't just write anything.
That's right.
You are not the one marking.
Yeah.
Write something that the one marking requires of you. And people simply do not take cognizance of some of these things, and they just write anything at all, thinking when all the questions came, we've written, we are going to make
and
it.
And even writing legibly, isn't that also?
You'll be disappointed, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You see?
But you see, then again, that's where we can trace back to the teachers of their mainstream institutions. They go through mock exam, and all these problems are supposed to come up, so that when they come up, you address them. And most teachers don't. Unfortunately, they don't have the time for these ones. So they see the problems, yes, but nothing is done about them. So they fail the exam, and they go for remedial.
All right. Well, Che and Benedict, we are going to have to wrap up now. But obviously, we've established something here. There's a bit of blame to pass on to everybody. The establishments themselves, a little bit on the teachers, mostly on the students. So what is it? I would say let's concentrate on the students at this point in time. What message would you give to students out there who are studying for exams at the moment in order not to end up in remedial school? Or if they do, what to do in remedial school?
Well, first of all, I think every student needs to be motivated inwardly. You need to know what you aspire to be in future, and that should be your first point of motivation. And then also know that there are so many materials available for you. Your teachers, your books are there. And look, I know people who have really studied alone, all by themselves, just going through past questions, and they've made it. You need to have some discipline, know why you are doing what and what you want to become. I think it will help everybody, but the state as a whole has a stake, has a role to play. We need to re-engineer our educational system in order to be sure that monitoring and supervision is really not relegated to the background. Otherwise, we'll always have problems.
Jay, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, definitely. I want the student to really get some principle, understand. With my background, no wonder we go by the slogan.
Okay, what is your background? You've been saying
Ideal
that for a long
College.
time.
Ideal College. We run a full-time remedial institution.
Okay.
With the slogan, how can you fail? Psych up the child. The child should even psych up himself. Just as Uncle was saying, people can sit alone, steady, and make it. Just have that psychological strength that I am not going to fail. Do not be intimidated by some subjects which students are branded as monstrous, like math and science especially. People have already branded some of these subjects, and if you don't take care, you repeatedly, you are going to become a customer for WAEC. All the time you go and they'll refer, you have to come back. But once you psych up yourself and decide that even though I failed some time ago, once I've enrolled myself, this is my last chance. Remember that once you write this year, next year the remedial institution you attended will be closed down, so you will not go back again. And this is exactly what you're supposed to use. Then you can find yourself fire. Thank
you ever so much, Benedict and Che, for coming in and talking about remedial schooling with us.